Single Family Design Board meeting for November 4th has begun. We will start with roll call.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll proceed with roll call. Chair Lewis?
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti?
Yes.
Board Member Moslahi?
Yes.
Board Member Sherry?
Yes.
We have quorum.
Okay. We will start with general public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person general public comment, and at this time I do have a slip from Mr. Dan Weber. Mr. Weber, please approach the podium. You will have 2 minutes to speak.
Hello. Thank you. I just want to, thanks for having me. I want to make a couple of comments on the minutes that you're going to vote to approve from our hearing at which we were granted final approval on the 21st of October. I provided some written comments this morning. Did you all receive them? Okay. So most of the comments were simple, very simple markups. There was a couple comments where the minutes didn't record exactly what was said, so I just put the correct language in there, and there was a couple that were grammatical or clarification markups that just made the sentence read correctly. But what I really want to talk about is the first one, number one. The minutes said that a cable railing be installed on that balcony, whereas there's no cable railings on the project, and I think most of the discussion was that a railing like a cable railing. So I suggested that be made consistent with comment number 2, which says a railing like a cable railing. And then the second part of that was the suggestion that that the railing be added at the divide between the deck and the landscape. And that doesn't really work because that railing intersects the corner of a double operable door. So it would be a really weird condition. One side you can walk out onto a deck, the other side onto a planter. So it's a condition that just doesn't quite make sense and isn't consistent with the intent of the Planning Commission or the City Council's comments, which is that the deck be pulled back to no greater than 15 feet from the property line. So I suggest that minute be made consistent with that clearly expressed intent on that item. Looks like I'm out of time. Thanks for the consideration.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weber. At this time, I do not have any additional slips for a general public comment. If anyone wishes to fill one out, they may do so and bring it to me. I do not see anyone moving, so we will turn our attention to virtual general public comment. And at this time, I do not have any hands raised for general public comment. We did receive written correspondence from Mr. Dan Weber, and with that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay. Next is approval of the minutes of the full board meeting from October 21st. I did have an item on number 2, which is on page 5. There we go. This first one, I think it would read better to say the design labeled, quote, alternate study, unquote, that continues the existing roof structure over the addition be approved. Okay. And then for the last item with the comments that we received for the Farello project, the motion did say cable railing, but per the comment, I am open to saying cable railing or similar. But what we did discuss and ultimately lean on for the motion was that it was in alignment with the edge of the west building elevation, but there was, which should be no closer than 15 feet from the property line. But I don't know if it needs to be, there was back and forth prior to the motion of something other than that. It's really just the three of us.
I remember the same thing, so I'm not sure. Maybe we want to ask Dan again, but I'm not remembering that we made a motion that would create a situation where the the railing would bifurcate a door. I remember it being.
It's at the corner.
It's at the corner, so,
Correct.
quick question for Dan, if I could, are there two doors meeting that open away from each other, and it's an open corner in that case?
That's correct.
So I didn't remember that.
I didn't recall it being a door because the point was that you couldn't walk out onto the planter.
Right, that's what, so if that's, I'd kind of like to pull up the drawings to see if that's the case, because I remember us spending a lot of time talking about that. We certainly wouldn't want to have made a condition of approval based on
Right, if it doesn't
opening
work.
a door at a corner position. That was not the intent. And regarding the materiality and that other comment, I do remember, though, that the intent of the item on the minutes was that the height of that wall, when it includes the 42-inch high railing, was exacerbating the height. So whether you want to say cable or
Well,
non-obtrusive.
that's actually on item 2. So item 2 was that the board approves a reduction of the wall at the south and west elevation along the planter, and if reduced, includes a non-obstructive railing, like a cable rail. So I think we can use that same non-obstructive railing language for the first item.
It's
And it would
really
be in
not,
keeping
and it's really not non-obstructive, it's more of a transparent in nature, so that you can see the landscaping.
Correct.
So that the whole idea for the comment was that the whole reason that I brought that up in the first place was because the height being so tall, 42, was exacerbating the height from the neighbor, and it was kind of close to that
Correct.
wall. So
Yeah.
that's why I made the comment.
Well, I think that still applies with it being non-obstructive. It's more making sure that that language is also in the first one as well.
Yeah.
You have the drawings or no?
Let me pull them up. I just
Okay.
was referencing this because you guys are discussing.
Got it. That's okay. I'll go to, or do you have a comment about either of two
No,
of
I
those
think that
statements?
honors the spirit of the motion and the discussion.
I am open to revising the second one that says we would accept but does not require a reduction of the wall, because we've not seen an alternate design, and so at least that design would be approved for
If that's
item
what we
2.
said, then we need to honor it, if that's what we said. The intent, the reason that I made the comment was in an effort to make it somewhat of a concession for the
Right.
neighbor to lower that height, and that's why I made that comment
Yeah.
in the meeting.
Okay, so for
But-
item 2, my motion is that it instead of approve says would accept but does not require for item 2. We're still revising item 1. For item 3, I support the revisions from Anna Kappa, which is just a type of, drawing substantially conform. And same for the proposed revisions for item 4, which is the plan substantially conform to comments from city council by reducing the second floor plate height to less than 10 feet 8 inches and providing screening. For item 5, I want to slightly revise the wording that is proposed by Anna Kappa. So it's the plans substantially conform to the comments from the Planning Commission by lowering the maximum elevation height of the building to no greater than 265 feet and 8.5 inches above sea level, and by setting the balconies back 15 feet from the property line, and provided clarification to demonstrate compliance to staff for FAR calculations. I think we will keep the language for 6 because they are the drawings that we have to check are conform. So we'll keep the drawings. So then for this one, I think that may have, so this is interesting. Because I think the intent, and I don't think I thought the conversation was that these were fixed now, but that they weren't updated in plan. but maybe the other ones were just fixed. But the intent is that you can't walk out there, so.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a dilemma because if you put a railing at the 15-foot, then it's really not a good design because it's too close to that open corner. So now we're getting into a design review. But you're right, Dan's right. I didn't see that was a pocket door going in there, and it doesn't make sense if that's supposed to be an open corner and it's non-structural. It doesn't make sense that there would be a railing going into it, so.
It's also just far beyond what the city council and planning commission requested by saying 15 feet. That's what
Yeah,
the
with their
railing you propose is
15
significantly
feet,
greater than
unfortunately, there wasn't very clear evidence on the planting plan that you couldn't occupy that extension, so that was a way to at least satisfy from our end that you couldn't occupy that balcony standpoint because there's been so much back and forth on this project. So I think.
I totally get the intent, and I tried to suggest a language that
Yeah.
would satisfy your intent and the planning commission and city council's comments as well.
Which let's see. So I'm going to read again Anna Kappa's intent or suggested revision, which is a non-obtrusive railing, like cable railing, be added on the western second-story balcony, no closer than 15 feet from the property line. For the board, what do you think of keeping though as a divide between hardscape and landscape? And that way they can make it work with their design,
As the divide between what?
hardscape and landscape.
Yeah, and I do want to interrupt because when we are reviewing,
You can't change the motion.
yeah, you can't like axe out something that was stated at that hearing because now we're saying it's a different condition of approval and it's not noticed for this project isn't noticed for that because we're looking at the plans now. We're noticing now that there's a door. These were items that weren't discussed at that hearing when we were
Right.
discussing the placement of that rail. So I don't want the conversation to go into
Yeah.
removing parts of the condition. It's really only clarifying the intent of the language that we're seeing before us today. So, for example, the divide between the hardscape and landscape, that's something you can't get rid of.
Right.
Because it's something that you said was
Yeah.
required at that
Okay.
hearing when we were discussing it. If I would like to check with my supervisor as well, how much wiggle room we have here and kind of what to do if we're finding that this condition isn't acceptable to you guys based on the new
Okay.
information presented here today. So I would like to call for a recess if that's the case for maybe about like 10 minutes. But I'll leave that up to you about how far you want to take the language because it is.
Should we move on with other
Alternatively, can we
minutes?
table this because I know there's a solution in here. I already have thought about it, that I think that the applicant would, I understand his intent and I
Sure.
understand our intent, and I know there's a solution, but in order to keep moving forward, can we table this approval of these minutes and come back to it?
You can continue the approval of the minutes to the
Yeah.
next full board hearing if that's what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
If you would
because-
like, or we can call a 10-minute recess. I can make a phone call and see what to do next.
Yeah, I'd rather do a recess so it gets resolved today.
Agreed.
But
Okay.
yeah. But can we do it at the end of approving these other minutes?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll get through general business and then we'll call for a recess. But for the record, Chair Lewis, if you could state that for item B that we'll come to that after item D.
Okay. We will return to item B, the approval of the full board minutes, after item D on the agenda. So for item C, this is approval of the minutes from the consent meeting on October 14th. Oh, that was me, yep. If you keep going. Okay. I move to approve the consent minutes from October 14th.
I will second that motion.
Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry,
Yes.
Board Member Moslehy.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, approval of the minutes from the consent meeting on October 21st.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from October 21st.
Second.
Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Moslehy,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, next is ratification of the action taken on the consent calendar for October 28th and today, November 4th.
Great, thank you. So for the first two items from the 28th, they're here posted on the agenda, so I won't announce them. But for November 4th, 219 Vista Del Mar Drive was granted final approval. 504 East Valerio Street was granted project design approval and final approval. And item 3, 3806 Lacumba Hills Lane was granted final approval with conditions.
Okay, I move to ratify the action taken at the consent calendar for October 28th and November 4th.
I'll second that.
Okay, we will take a quick,
No, let me
Roll call.
oh,
roll
I
call real quick.
apologize. Roll call.
No problem. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Moslehy,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, so we'll take a quick break to confirm what is possible for revision of the minutes for the full board on October 21st.
Sure. And 10 minutes,
Okay.
I think should be okay.
Okay.
But if not, I'll come back and I'll tell you that. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
let's go back to general business.
Do I need to say, we're on item B, approval of the minutes, and we've got an update from staff.
Yes, so I was able to get in contact with my supervisor, Ellen Kokinda, to get clarification on the motion making and approving the minutes. Give me one second, let me bring them up first. This is the right application. This is. Okay. So, yeah, to clarify is that we can't change the language of the motion too much. So adding anything in there, like new boundaries, like including new measurements from boundaries, is something that's outside of the purview of approving the approving minutes, because that's changing the nature of the motion and how that requirement was made during the hearing. So what can be done is this cable railing, I know it was discussed between the board members, adding clarification that something like cable railing, that's something that's acceptable because it's still following the intent of the motion, meaning that some kind of cable railing was proposed to be there. But otherwise, the fact that railing would go into a pocket door as designed, those are the plans that were approved. And if there are any changes to those plans, to those approved plans, is that the applicant would have to reach out to staff and go through that process of changing those plans. So that could be a review after final, either at the staff level or at the board level. But unfortunately, we can't include we can't include any other language in addition to the motion language that we're seeing here today.
Okay. I do recommend that we modify it to include a non-obtrusive railing, like be added to the beginning of the statement. And I think the rest is in keeping with what the motion was. Okay. I move to approve the minutes from the full board meeting of October 21st as modified or as revised, amended. Do you want me to read back through all of those, or did you?
Actually, I'll read them back
Okay.
just for clarification.
Okay.
So on item 1, it will read, a non-obtrusive railing like cable railing be added on the western second-story balcony as it divides between hardscape and landscape in alignment with the edge of the west build elevation.
Yeah, and let's say west building elevation.
Building, okay.
Okay.
Number 2 is to read, board would accept but does not require a reduction of the wall of the south and west elevation along the planter, and if reduced, include a non-obstructive railing like cable railing on the outside edge.
Yes.
Number 3 is to read, drawings substantially conform with plans that receive project design approval by reducing the plate height by 1 foot and including screening of large expansive glazing. Number 4 is to read, the plans substantially conform to comments from City Council by reducing the second floor plate height to less than 10 feet, 8 inches, and providing screening. Comment number 5 is to read, the plans substantially conform to the comments from Planning Commission by lowering the maximum elevation height of the building to no greater than 265 feet and 8.5 inches above sea level, and by setting the balconies back 15 feet from the property line, and provided clarification to demonstrate compliance to staff for FAR calculations. And number 6, to read, the board feels that to meet substantial conformance, the exterior needs to conform to the drawings that received product design approval, and the changes shown in the basement floor plan do not change or alter the exterior. So we just need a second.
Second.
Okay, we'll take vote. Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Moslahy,
I'm going to abstain from commenting due
Okay.
to conflict of interest.
Right, Board Member Sherry?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. We will move to item E, which is announcements or requests by applicants for continuances and withdrawals or future agenda items and appeals.
So for this project, or for my announcements, interviews for SFDB happened last week, and we had one person for SFDB interviewed, Christopher Richards. I heard it went pretty smashingly, and council appointments will be taking place on November 19th. So we'll hold tight until then.
Okay.
And I have no updates on the 313 Vista de la Cumbra appeal. I think I've already mentioned it at the previous hearing, so no further comment on that project. And the 1269 Farella Road final approval decision that was made on October 21st was appealed to the Planning Commission by the public. We have not yet determined a hearing date, but that is also currently in process. And yeah, that's it for announcements.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Perfect. So remind me again, do you know, once SFDB is voted, when would the new member start on our board?
I believe the term starts in January.
Oh,
So
not
it- yeah.
December. Okay, got
No,
it.
I
Okay.
believe it would not be in December. I believe it would be
Keep one.
January. If there are any changes to that deadline, I will let you know. but-
Okay.
yeah.
And then as a reminder to the board to get in any absences to staff so that they can adjust the schedule as needed. Okay, starting a little behind, we are on our first item, a new item here for concept review. This is 303 Cooper Road. Proposal to construct a 1,000 square foot detached two-story ADU on a lot developed with a 2,272 square foot, one-story, single-unit residence, and attached 420 square foot, or under, two-car garage. The project includes new mechanical equipment and permitting as-built fencing. The proposed total of 3,727 square feet on a 10,890 square foot lot is 85% of the required Florida lot area ratio. Staff hearing officer review and approval of a coastal development permit is required. No final appealable decision will take place at this hearing. So, welcome. Any staff comments?
I do not have any staff comments. Pilar Plummer is the assigned case planner for this project. She is not here at the moment, and I did not receive any notes from her. So I will contact her and see if there's anything, but I did not receive any notes. So thanks.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Sean Lynch with Neighborhood Design. Thank you for having me. This is a very simple project over on the Mesa. So it's a two-story, 1,000 square foot ADU. We are 85% of our FAR, including the main house, garage, and ADU. So we're right in that sweet spot. It's located on the West Mesa. It's a corner lot. The lot is approximately, I think, just over, where are we here? Zooming in, about just over 10,000 square feet, I believe. And we'll just kind of go down to the site plan here. So I'll just go to existing conditions. So here's the front elevation off of, I think it's Palisades, or sorry, it's Cooper and Carlton. Yeah, sorry. And you can see it's a mix of board and batten and stucco with kind of these white fiberglass windows. So we're really pulling this language into our ADU. We're trying to just make it very consistent, sort of a California ranch style. The area is kind of a mix. Most of the properties are kind of right up against the front setback of both Cooper, Carlton, and the other side street here. And there's a mix of kind of single levels, 2 stories, a little bit of everything. So, and you know, this part of the West Mesa still is relatively undeveloped. Obviously, everything's changing. So this is kind of just moving forward. And this is a property for the owner's family, so it's their son will be moving in there. Going down, here's the existing site plan on the left. As you can see, the existing residence kind of in that southeast corner, open yard, and our accessory dwelling unit is kind of going that northwest corner. So it's 2 stories. We've set it back enough to, one, meet our solar access, and then also try to provide additional privacy as well. And what we did and why we're here is because we do have a deck that is closer than 15 feet to a property line, but as you'll see in the sections, what we did, we have a 5-foot guardrail around it. So really, it's just to create some indoor-outdoor space. They're not looking for any kind of views anywhere, so. And then as you can see, we still meet all of our open yard area, 2-car garage existing for the main house, and then it'll just be street parking for the ADU since it's closer than a half mile from a bus stop. Just going down, BMP stuff, just a simple kind of little 2-bedroom, a single bedroom, bathroom, laundry room on the ground floor, an open living room, kitchen on the ground floor as well. Then upstairs, just a single primary bedroom, closet, bathroom, and then a little lounge. And then you can see this larger patio here. And so the rooms are all modest. This primary bedroom is about 11 by 13. So really, we're not really pushing anything. Plate heights are, I believe we have 8 plate on the upper story and 8 on the lower story as well. So we're fighting our solar axis, as you kind of see here. So that really dictated the placement of the ADU. And then let me just quickly go back up. There's an existing tree right here that they planted back about 20 years ago. So part of it's going to be just trimming the tree. It's like a magnolia tree, so there's no architectural significance or any kind of specimen tree. So that'll be trimmed. And then in terms of just simple lighting, all will be dark sky compliant. So just on this upper patio, two lights up here, and then the lower, there's a covered porch, and really just kind of a simple, trying to really play with what's existing. The elevations, as you come up, we have 2 large, higher sill windows at the top of the landing to be over 5 feet to make sure that privacy is maintained as per the kind of general guidelines. And then we have some larger windows as you kind of go into this stair tower. So we tried to create a little bit of detail to it. So kind of have these like belly band details, these exposed rafters. So we tried to add a little bit of detail to this, essentially a box with a patio. And so we try to break up the massing. So the 2-story massing is all the stucco, or board and batten. And then this deck with the bedroom is plaster. So we really tried to play with the same material as the main house. And as this is that south elevation, you can see the covered porch here. So just a little porch area. This is the elevation. This west elevation is facing the neighbor. So as you see, there's 2 taller ones. And then this little head popping up here, you'll see in the section, it's about a 5'8" person. So you can see it's there's really no impact down to the neighbors. This is the north, so this is facing the neighbor as well. As you can see, these are just higher windows. The heat pump meets all the decibel levels requirements, about 7 feet away from the property line. This is just a little bathroom window, and then the French doors out to the back. And then just the detailing is really just kind of simple detailing to match the main house. We have some, head jam details. Pretty much we're pretty much ready to go. This took almost 6 to 8 months just to get here. So it's been a long process. So we're just trying to push this thing forward, and just going through, I'll just go through. Here's some perspectives for you, just to give you an idea of the detailing, kind of these hardy board corner panelings. Just trying to add a little bit of detail where we can for this kind of really simple structure. And then our material palette, the James Hardy's kind of this cobblestone color. The plaster is dove gray, just a black shingle roof. We're going to go with a Milgard fiberglass window, which will be white to match the main house, and then just a simple dark sky compliant light fixture. And then here's our mechanical plan with our single heat pump right here. And then we're actually having an electric full tank water heater inside. The clients are actually own a plumbing company, so they're going to be doing a lot of the work themselves. So they wanted to go with a full tank instead of electric or tankless. And that completes my presentation. Happy to field any questions.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this particular project. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, they may fill a slip out and bring it to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so, so we will move on to virtual attendance. And at this time, I see no hands raised for a virtual comment on this particular item, and we did not receive any written correspondence. So at that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with questions. Oh,
And,
yes.
yeah, Board Member Lewis, I was wondering, is it possible for me to provide some staff comment
Yes,
at this
that'd
time
be
before
helpful.
you get into comments? The project is here today because the accessory dwelling unit criteria weren't met. I believe the applicant went over that. But this project requires continuance to the staff hearing officer so that they can go through with the coastal development permit. So that's just going to be part of the motion. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I can jump in with questions.
thank
My
you.
first question is, can you just cover the deck dimensions?
Yeah, absolutely. It is approximately, where are we here? So it's about 21 feet wide by, should we do that dimension? It's down below, you can see it. So it's about 5'6" by 21.
Okay. And then did you consider any other options for the railing besides the stucco? Just the intention behind the question is considering the massing.
We thought about a couple options, but privacy was going to be a big concern just because it is so close to the neighbor. So we wanted something solid, one, just to make sure that privacy is maintained. And then I did a couple iterations of how the materials will be applied, and it just sort of made sense to have this second back half be plaster. Just, we wanted a little bit of variation between the material. So, going with anything that was rail, like open rail or anything like that, just didn't make sense for the privacy concern and wanting to address that. So that's sort of where we landed, was just with this solid plaster inside and outside.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then I think you mentioned this, but the exterior, so the board and batten, the stucco, that's to match the colors and style and everything is to match existing residents?
Pretty as best as possible, the same palette, I guess, the same tones, but not maybe the exact color.
Why not exact?
I mean, we can get there. I mean, those colors are faded and
Okay.
they're probably, I think they're from their like 60s. So we can get close. It's sort of a taupey, but we're happy to.
Okay, the intention is to
keep
match
within
existing.
that. Yeah, sort of to keep within that, that color palette for sure.
Okay, and then, yeah, actually, I wanted you to just zoom in on the
Yeah.
windows.
And it's, this is, again, it's sort of like most of Mesa, sort of a hodgepodge over time.
Yep.
So, there's these kind of like side casements, there's a couple like sliders. So it's a little bit of everything. So what we wanted to go with is just sort of a kind of a casement that created the biggest opening possible instead of going with a slider. But I think there's, enough different types of windows. I think either direction we thought would work.
Okay, I think that's it for my questions right now.
Okay. I'm curious if you studied the porch being in the front of the ADU.
We did. The clients had actually worked with somebody else prior to me coming on board with some concept plans and went through multiple iterations. This really made the most sense in terms of how it laid out, where the stairs came up, and, this front porch. So we did do multiple studies, but this is really where they found would be the most kind of successful for them.
Okay. And then the siding, was that determined by the existing trees or
Existing, what do you
the
mean?
sighting on the sighting?
Oh,
on the-
sighting,
yeah.
sorry, I thought you said sighting. Exactly, yeah, so it was really, initially there wasn't a front porch, but I felt that the porch really helped kind of sort of balance out the mass a little bit, especially when you sort of look at it in perspective, it kind of really grounds it a little bit. Before it was just a big two-story mass, this creates a little bit of depth and shadow line. So it really was dictated by that tree in the front, or in front of it, sorry. Back to the site plan.
And will there be associated landscaping or connection for this?
At this time, no. Most of it's all just kind of lawn area, and they have dogs, so most of it will be lawn. And then just really the path along, so, we'll maintain hedges along the property line, but beyond that, most of it will remain. We're just doing a fence along to kind of create some division between the main house and the ADU.
Okay, and then on your site plan,
Here, I'll go with this one, sorry.
so it looks like the use is a shed for the neighbor adjacent, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and here I can go up here. There's no habitable area, at least, I don't think the shed's habitable, but you can kind of see here, there's a small shed right here, and then two little small sheds here, and then, most of the residences are along Mesa Lane here, Mesa Lane, all up at the front, so same with this, it's really just kind of open yard in the back, so.
and do you know if there's been conversations with the neighbors?
I'm not sure if they have, I haven't personally, but I'm not sure if the owners have.
Okay,
And they're Drew Plumbing, so they've been there for, I think, 40-plus years, so I think actually this neighbor is a older gentleman who's possibly this house is gonna go into probate at some point, is what I've heard, so, I don't know how much conversation they've had with them, but,
okay, any other questions?
I have some, but I can.
Yeah, you're on this aerial, so I just want to confirm that the ADU is proposed behind the tree.
Yeah, right in this area.
And so it backs up to a shed in the corner of the neighbor's yard on one side, the rear yard of the other neighbor, and a couple of sheds and some landscaping on the other neighbor.
Let's see.
Let me see that.
Let's see, here's a little bit better from a different perspective. Let me zoom in here.
And then, because I was wondering my question was, what's the landscaping between all the neighbors along there? And it looks like there's
There's some hedging existing. You can kind of see it's a pretty thick hedge here. So most of this hedging will be maintained. And if anything obviously happens during construction, it would be to maintain that hedging. But,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
I know you mentioned, so it's a magnolia there.
Yes.
Did you have an arborist or anything look at that? Just I'm looking at the drip line of that versus the proposed ADU. And I'm curious if that's an issue or not.
We've talked with our planner. They're not requiring it. This is obviously an older photo. It has been kind of manicured, and so the idea is really just to keep the tree in place, but really just trim it up. So it'd just be talking with an actual arborist on site instead of having an arborist report. And so
Yeah,
it's
I'm just
not-
trying to since the intention is to build around that, and that's kind of driving the side of the project. But it just looks so close to the root zone and everything, just trying to understand. Okay.
If the tree were not there, would they have cited the ADU as close to the property lines?
I never had that conversation. This tree, they planted it, I think, when their son was born, so the intent was always to keep this tree. It's kind of a family importance to keep it, so, and it's a corner lot, so it has 2 front yard setbacks, so you do have to push it to the back. It could maybe, if that tree wasn't there, it could have moved a couple feet forward, but it does have 2 front yard setbacks, so it is a constrained lot.
I have one more question about that tree. Can we see the tree drip line on the site plan?
I don't have it on the site plan, I just
Can
have.
we just see the site plan?
Yeah, just
So
this is
you have
approximate.
You have the building right within 2 feet of the front porch.
Well, this is just the porch. So this is probably about, I'd say, 3 or 4 feet, and then just maintaining it from there.
The drip, right,
Yeah.
but the drip line is like 30 feet diameter.
Where do you see that?
In the photos. I mean, it's a huge tree.
Okay. I mean,
It's a huge canopy.
I get it. I mean, these are old Google Earth photos, so I wouldn't say
have new
you can
photos.
determine it's a 30-foot tree by a photo.
Well, for
Okay.
a magnolia, though, I think you could potentially, well, I don't know, I don't want to jump into comments.
Okay.
It's all right. Okay,
Yeah.
that answers my question. Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions?
Another question, can you go please to your west elevation, A400?
this one.
So window upstairs, window number 11 and 12, I understand because of the privacy issue, they have like higher seal. What's the difference? What's the idea behind window number 10 and 9 not being the same? So what's the rhythm concept?
We just wanted to create as much light in the stairwell because it does open out to, this is, opens into the living room down below. So it's just to create as much light as possible.
I see. And I'm thinking that because this structure will be a two-story structure, from the street on the west side, the other intersection, I think it's Mesa Lane, I think this elevation will be visible, so I'm kind of like questioning the rhythm of the windows. And
This will
how the
not be
architect-
visible from Mesa
You don't
Lane.
think so?
No, 100%. I can go back.
Do you have a picture from that intersection? I don't think so.
No, but as you can see, there's all of this landscaping, these trees. There's no way to see this structure from anywhere along Mesa Lane. You can maybe get a glimpse from Carlton, sort of looking maybe that way, but all of this is, you really can't see any of these properties. So that's 232, as you can see, maybe you can get a little glimpse there. I do have a picture of from Mesa Lane up here. And as you can see, you really just, everything's, like I said, most of this neighborhood is still undeveloped, so.
Thank you.
Pretty overgrown.
I'll keep this for comments to just
Okay.
open discussion.
Well, I think we're ready for comments. So do you want to start us?
Yeah, I think like this west elevation, the rhythm of those windows, 9, 10, 11, 12, and also the deck guardrail, which is like a large, the proportion of like the plaster. So this is what the neighbor will see. And I don't think there's that much like landscape proposed. There's like a note that says new vegetation, hedge, something. New vegetated treatment area, but I don't think that will help that, the tall guardrail plaster. Yeah, I'm convinced that from the street, this will not be visible, but from the neighbor, like that's what the neighbor on the west, north will see, so I think it needs a little bit adjustments.
Board Member Sherry?
Yeah, I have the same kind of type of comments about that guardrail. I think that it sounds like you're kind of designing it with the neighbor's privacy in mind, and I think I wouldn't want to spend any time on that back deck without being able to see anything. It's like a jail. Like it just looks so closed off, and so I would, I understand. It sounds like the concern is so that the neighbors have privacy and you have privacy, but I think it's doing a disservice to both. So I'm not going to, tell you how to do it, but I think it needs to be looked at again, and maybe you can do something with landscaping. And I agree with the comment about the windows. I think that when we start raising the sill of windows on second stories, at the expense of the quality of architecture, it's doing a disservice to architecture. So especially here when you're basically just at the top of a railing and you're not going to be looking out that window because you're just going to be turning and going into the room. You're not spending time on the landing looking over. I wouldn't have an issue with you lowering the sill and getting more light in to that area. I understand why you did it, because as you get up there, if you're 6 feet tall, you can peek over. But I think that the windows at two different heights are not working. That's it.
Sorry, we're on comments right now. Board Member Graffiti?
Okay. Yeah, so I agree with what's been said. And I think we've mentioned, the stucco as the railing. I am really trying to think about a recommendation in our guidebook that has come up a lot, which is decks, typically should be 15 feet from the property line. And I think one thing that's working in favor of getting that a little bit closer is just the fact that you don't have other structures close next to the fence line on the, I think it's 3 actually properties that you're up against, but it's still pretty close. I think it's 7.5 feet on one side, and I don't remember the measurement from the other. So I'm kind of wrestling with, when we aren't enforcing a 15-foot deck, what kinds of justifications are we looking for? I guess materiality, privacy, vegetation. It would be helpful also to see more photos of the vegetation on that side of the property. I think we have them on one. So I'm just struggling with that deck in general. I think the size of it, the proximity, and then just the stucco material. On the front, I am very skeptical about the construction around the magnolia tree, because it is a specimen tree technically, but I have a hard time believing, with how close that trunk and root zone is to the proposed porch and structure and the drip line, that's going to be salvageable. And if that's driving the siting of the plans, I just think it should be noted. Yeah, that's it for my comments.
Thanks. I agree with what's been said. I think it feels really odd how close it is to the tree, and the fact that that's kind of driving. Otherwise, it kind of wants to move forward, because you have 2 front yards, and I know there's a fence right now. I think understanding this kind of access is important. I do agree that I think we need photos of the existing magnolia and its scale, and also the property. I think for the deck, I am open if we have either support from neighbors or some understanding of this screening that's happening, because the size is larger than recommended and the closeness, so it's hitting on both of those things outside of our guidelines. I think the window, not just on the west elevation, but even the front, some of the details of that, like the proportions, it's worth looking at craftsman style and the spacing between windows, and whether it becomes 1 window unit with 3 main divisions, or 4 instead of 4 all right there, or having some more space. I agree that you don't necessarily need it right there at the landing, and if it is, then making some sense architecturally of the elevation of how the windows are placed. I understand the change from board and batten to plaster. I think it's worth studying the plaster elevations. It feels like a bit of an afterthought right now, and it might be that it's because it aligns with everything and then it's just straight up. It might be that part of it comes in a little bit and it feels like a smaller component, or if it drops down a little bit and you introduce a secondary top railing if you still want something higher, or that you introduce some level of plantings hanging down. The front, I understand architecturally why you want a porch on the front. I wonder, I think it'd be helpful to see this in relation to the tree, and if it's worth studying if that gets a little bit smaller of a porch, so that it feels like there's space to breathe between the tree and the entry. Any other comments? Okay. So.
Can I respond to any of these comments you guys made?
Not typically, but briefly, yeah.
So a lot of these, everything you touch on is based on the ADU guideline. So when there's a window and you're on a landing, they want your sill over 5 feet. That's what is dictating this, is per the ADU checklist. The guardrail, it requires, if it's closer than 15 feet from the setback, it wants to be a solid guardrail. So I don't know how we can change that to something that is not solid without having to go in for some kind of.
If it helps to understand, so the checklist is so that staff can do review without it going to SFDB. Once you've already hit the rules that don't apply, which you do by being within the setback, then it comes to our board and we review on the architectural language. And so then some of these things that are checklists, just to make sure that it kind of meets it, we are able to understand the interpretation. And so our board says, yes, you met the checklist of having your window at 5'6" at the landing, but now all 4 of your windows are really tight together and they're varying in size and it doesn't have a consistent architectural language that's compatible with Craftsman. So that's what we're studying. Yes, you have a 5-foot guardrail, but it creates a habitable space there that's not quite enjoyable, and it creates a huge mass of bulk on the back of your building because there's no division between your plaster on your first floor and your second floor, and it's just this tall, expansive plaster. So we're trying to work with you to help make a better design regardless of the checklist from the staff review.
Okay.
So I think what we're open, if you have any quick comments of, like, if there were design moves behind these things.
Yeah, I mean, the design moves is, I personally like the rhythm of this. I guess I disagree. I don't think these windows reflect the front. This is to get light, so it's a more of a function over, fashion in a sense. Form follows function. So, they match these windows. These windows pull up. I think this will be ultimately a single kind of unit around it. This plaster guardrail, the clients are on board with it. Again, we can revise it, but again, they want privacy just as much as the neighbors do. So that's really what's dictating that. And really the only reason we're here is because we have a deck that's closer than 15 feet. That's the only trigger. That's the only reason we're here.
Correct. So if you'd end up not wanting our comments, then you just don't have a deck within 15
Yeah.
and you get your ADU.
No, I understand that.
Yeah, okay.
But we, this is something that they want to pursue, so. And I, just to clarify, I don't think we're considering this a Craftsman building.
What style would you consider?
I would say it's more reflective of, it's more of like a ranch style, obviously 2-story, but it's more detailed, reflective of trying to do of what's on the main house than, a ranch, because then that just puts you in that wouldn't be approvable since you're going with a completely different style from the main house.
So the architecture that you're showing in your window details, your trim around it, is different when we look at your elevation versus your main house.
Okay, let's see. I mean, what are you looking at? I mean, they're all different. That's the problem. There's, 5 inches, there's 3 inches, so it's sort of, we have to just pick and choose because of this has just been hodgepodged over time.
I'm talking about the trim around the windows and doors versus what you're showing on your windows for your proposed.
So this window right here, this looks like it's almost 6 inches of trim. This looks like it could be 4 inches. This looks like it could be.
Yeah, but see how they're all in alignment? When you look at your elevation and you go down to the sill, you're showing a more Craftsman style in your elevation, and if that's not what you want, then it is recommended that you update these.
Are you referring to the protruding sill?
Correct. And the way that on the top, you've got the bulk of the header and the way that it's made. So I think it's important that and you've got, right now, your sills are not all aligned and there's just some drafting inconsistencies, but what you described was that this might be one window with all these different things all involved, where what we're looking at are 4 distinct ones with their own trim around it. And so I think it's important to study what that condition will be and commit to the style if the intent is for it not to be Craftsman. But with the Craftsman, we want the spacing around here. We submitted this back in September. As I mentioned, this has been over 6 months of just waiting. So from beginning to end. So
That's a bit of the frustration, is that it's just a sit and wait, and now, so okay, I hear your comments, thank you. It's been a very slow process in the city, and the clients are getting very frustrated. And we took 2 weeks to turn around our planner letter, and then it just sat for another 3 months, so it's been a very tough process in the city now. And I hear you, though. I will make adjustments.
Okay. I recommend some kind of follow-up with staff on the timing. For us, this is our first our first concept. I would like to ask the board, what are your thoughts on this going to the consent calendar or coming back here?
I'm fine with that if we make the comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I add something? Like in general, our guidelines, you mentioned that like we're not talking about the style, but like you said that it's not craftsman, but like we're looking at the main house, and then you're saying that yourself that, and we know by time this is like a hodgepodge. So one of our guidelines is to have the good quality architecture. When we're doing a new construction, like we care about that. That's like our purview, and that's why we're like so sensitive about it. And if the main house by time like has like different things going on and we don't even know what's the style, so what's the purpose of copying that?
And that's not the intent. The intent is for all the windows and to be, graphically, it may look slightly different on the elevations, but these are the guiding window details, so everything should be consistent. But again, we'll go through it all, not a problem.
Thank you.
So my request for whoever makes the motion is just really clear what we're looking for in relating to the deck, just because if we are going to be in a position to approve something at consent that is so much closer than the 15 feet, like clarity as to why and what needs to happen to make that justification.
Just one quick thing, we were deemed complete, so there is a clock now ticking for this ADU as well, officially.
And I think by potentially bringing it to consent, we're trying to help you
agree.
as much as possible. I think the question's more for myself. If I'm the person that's on consent, I really want to be able to make a positive motion if you've hit all the requests that we've asked for.
So
And
to
I'm
the
asking-
board,
yeah.
I'd like it to stay between the board right now for comments. And I'm curious to hear from people. In my opinion, if they're adamant of the guardrail staying at the height that it is, then there needs to be a change in the architectural language so it doesn't feel like a mass bulk, and some sort of stepping in from the massing of the board and batten house. If it's lowered, they can introduce a secondary material if they still want height, but it's inset in the wall of the guardrail, and maybe that's metal railing, maybe that's landscaping, maybe that's something. Does the board agree? Or? Yeah, I see nods.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to make a motion and we can modify it as needed. So I move to continue this project indefinitely to the consent calendar with the following comments. The board would like to see photos of the existing magnolia tree and its condition on site, as well as photos of the existing boundaries between the property at the ADU, at the property line. Sorry, thank you. The board is concerned in the general size of the deck and its location within 15 feet from the property line. They would like to see supporting materials either from the neighbor or in understanding the privacy screening of vegetation that's existing between the properties. The board is concerned with the overall bulk of the plaster portion of the ADU and recommends either lowering the height of the guardrail with the option of adding a secondary partially open railing and or landscaping, or stepping in the plaster portion of the ADU so that it is inset and smaller than the board and batten portion of the ADU. The board would like to see consistency with the window heights on the west elevation and recommends studying the style of the window so they portray the intent on the elevations. The window spacing should be consistent with the architectural style. The board is concerned with the closeness of the front of the ADU to the existing magnolia tree. Recommends studying the size of the front porch in relation to the tree. The board would like to see the proposed colors and material board, if other than matching existing on the main house.
I'll second the motion, but under discussion, I have a couple of comments. You made, one of your comments was that the board is concerned about the size of the deck. Is that the consensus of the board? Because I wasn't concerned about the size, it was more about the materiality of the bulk and the height of the railing.
There were some members, so I heard board member Graffiti talk about the size. The size is larger than what we generally recommend, especially given its closeness to the property line.
Okay, we'll leave that in then.
Okay.
And there was a comment about the deck, and there was a couple of oars.
No.
And another option could be, or change the material of the deck from plaster to board and batten. That would also alleviate the bulkiness of it and provide some three-dimensionality.
So if they did that, are you referring to the entire plaster portion, or?
Yeah, I'm not so sure that even the stucco, as that being the only stucco element, is really doing anything. That's why I made that comment. I don't really think it's helping by just trying to bring in those two. If he's doing it to try to bring in the two materials, I don't think it's necessarily required, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's not consistent with the architecture even to have plaster on that element itself. So another or could be, or change the material from plaster to board and batten to match the siding.
Would you still keep the general height?
All the other comments were fine. It was
Okay.
more about just, or change the materiality.
Yeah, I'm open to that, and if that is the case with the board and batten, that the horizontal banding to continue as well.
Yeah.
Okay, agreed.
Yeah,
Okay.
agreed, the horizontal band, yeah.
Okay. Any other revisions? Okay, we'll take a roll call.
Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti,
Yes.
Board Member Moslahi,
Yes.
Board Member Sherry,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. Forgot my cord. Okay, we will move to our second item. 344 La Marina. This is a new item here for concept review. The 6,885 square foot parcel is in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone and development with a 1,713 square foot, one-story single-unit residence with an attached 265 square foot garage. The project consists of a proposal to demolish 40 square feet of the existing residence and construction of a second floor addition to accommodate an 834 square foot ADU with a 54 square foot covered balcony. The ADU and balcony are subject to discretionary design review. Project requires staff hearing officer review and approval of a coastal development permit. The proposed total of 2,772 square feet of development on a 6,885 square foot lot is 95% of the maximum required floor to lot area ratio. No final appealable decision will take place at this hearing. Any staff comments?
Thank you. Will Russell, the case planner for this project. No additional staff comments besides that this project would be continued to staff hearing officer for approval of the coastal development permit, if that's the direction it's going today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, welcome. You'll have 15 minutes to present and walk us through your project.
Awesome. Chris Cottrell, architect. This project is on La Marina up near Cliff. It is 3 houses down from the corner of Cliff. Let's see if I can show you that right there. That's Cliff, that guy. So this is, let me get to the site plan, show you what we've got. The pink is the existing garage, which is non-conforming. It's encroaching into the front yard setback. With the ADU, will conform, so we're stepped back 20 feet from the street. We've got some tight constraints on this one. The north property line is pretty darn close to the existing building. And to give this ADU rentability and privacy for the current owner, we're getting the entry from the street along this north side, and this little chunk in here, there's a circular stair that gets up into the ADU. So we're gonna leave the garage as a garage and not convert that and just do the ADU as a second story. But there's a couple photos I want you to see here. Let's see if I can zoom in.
Oh yeah, through the chair to the applicant, the laptop is touchscreen, so you can pinch and zoom and
Wow.
yeah, 21st century.
Whoa, that's kind of scary. Thank you. Okay, so this is the neighbor to the north with this nice hedge. You can see this. I think I'll use the mouse just to show that. There's an existing fence on the neighbor's property with greenery behind it. So there's already a really nice screen to where this ADU is going to come in. Here's a shot. I just climbed up onto the fence and I'm looking down that side yard. So you can see there's a retaining wall with a fence with a hedge. So if you just see where this gutter is, it's below the fence line already. When I show you the elevations, it'll make a little bit more sense, but I just want to give you a perspective there. We've got 2-story houses all around here. There's one to the south. There's 2 houses to the north. There's one across the street. Now I can't zoom. Oh, there we go. This is across the street, big broad 2-story house with a deck over the entry. And then this is right on Cliff, this little carport and 2-story. Okay. Oh, it's a little laggy here, yeah. Okay, existing site plan or existing floor plan. There's the garage. It is non-conforming in size. It's a single-car garage. We will leave that. This little laundry area, this is where we're going to demo and get that circular stair up there. On grid line 3, from D to G, there is a 20-inch steel beam in the ceiling already. So we're going to keep that. They put that in on this last project to open up this living room. Okay. All right, and then this would be the ground floor of the project. We'd keep the garage. Again, pink is that non-conforming section of the garage, which we are not going to touch. And there's that circular stair. So the tenant would be coming down this side and coming up this stair to get in. Okay. All right, second floor. This is an 800 square foot, 1-bedroom ADU. So that circular stair gets you to a very small landing. We are closer than the 15 feet to the neighbor's property line, so we have to screen that landing, even though it's really a 3x3 landing. I'll show you in the elevation how we're going to do that. So yeah, it's just a great room, laundry, powder, bedroom. It's either a couple or a student. The city college is just a couple blocks over. Roof plan. Wow, sorry, it's so laggy. We've got hip roofs everywhere. This little outdoor area has got a cover on it to kind of give it a little shape and soften it towards the main house. Okay, again, remembering that photo, so this line, this is that side yard. Where that eave is, that fence line is actually, it's pretty high up here. So the neighbor is well screened from this ADU. We've got a kitchen window and a bathroom window. They'll probably both have bottom-up shades on it. And then from the street, this is that great room, and here's the little covered outdoor area. We'll just clean up, the entry right now has this little kind of frumpy shed roof over it. We'll just clean that up with a more horizontal, a little bit more modern feeling shed roof. Same vibe, but just a little bit more room in there. It's a little compacted right now. Here's that view looking south. So there are ocean views. So this great room is sort of looking out over their own driveway towards the ocean. And I think that is what we've got for elevations. Neighbor support, we did get 2 letters from the southern neighbor and then the neighbor on the corner of Cliff and La Marina with the other 2-story. He also wrote in a letter of support. I spoke with Franny Higgins, the neighbor to the north, this morning. She runs a little daycare there. It's really cute. And she said she doesn't want to rain on anyone's parade. So she's supportive of the project too. I think there was a letter from a neighbor in the PUD who was not into second stories, but I'll let the board, you're welcome to have any comments. This is the forum for comments, so that's fine. But yeah, I'll leave it there and open it up to questions.
All right, we'll actually start with public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this particular project. If anyone wishes to fill one out and make a comment, they may do so. I see no one in the audience moving to do so, so we will turn our attention to virtual comment. And at this time, we do not have any hands raised for virtual comment on this project. And we did receive written correspondence for this project from Tony Shibata, Jerry Jackentel, and Michael Franco. And at that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
All right, thank you. We will start with questions. Anyone want to start us? Okay, I'll start. I'm curious what other stair configurations were studied. I know it's tight, but I'm just thinking of the furniture, egress, fire, all that stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
We did study quite a few
Okay.
different stair configurations, including taking some of the garage out.
Mm-hmm.
It's you just can't do it. The
Okay.
transportation department will not let us, even though it's a non-conforming garage, that 13
Interesting.
feet, they won't let us eat into that.
Okay.
So yes, I really studied it and I really wanted to do a regular stair.
Mm-hmm.
This is our last ditch effort to make it work.
Okay. And then I'm wondering if you can walk me through again how the deck connects in with the existing roof,
Sure.
like above the
so-
garage corner there.
So this is looking from the street. So this is the entry to the main house. How it was is this little shed roof with a smaller post. So we're basically just upgrading that. And by the reason we did that is if we have this little deck just a little bit above the old roof, it looks like very cobbled. So this was just a cleaner way to kind of just tie all that together.
Okay. And then
You want
on
to see over the garage?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So this was the old garage roof that went all the way around. We just chopped it at the deck.
Okay. And then it will just wrap back.
Yes, exactly. It does the same thing on both sides. So
Okay.
here it stops on this side. Yeah.
Will you scroll down again?
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I have just one question. If you go to your the elevation that is facing the tall hedge of the neighborhood. Do you know approximately how tall? I'm looking at that hedge on Google Earth and it shows pretty high.
It's pretty high.
I'm curious to know, like, how tall is it comparing to the elevation?
Yeah, let me see if I can get into one of these photos so you can see it. So this is the hedge,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I would say just estimating, it's probably almost at plate height of the proposal.
Okay. That was my question.
Great.
And then you talked about screening at the top of the stair.
Oh, yeah.
Could you walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so it's that same elevation. So right now we're showing this, wow, this is, it's this J call out right there. So they're asking for up to 5 feet of screen.
Who's they? Sorry.
Our planners.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sorry. This is kind of TBD right now. This is probably a metal screen, but we could do it with something else. I mean, it's like a smooth stucco and I don't know, it's kind of got some more modern elements, and we'll have like a steel stair, so it probably is like a perforated metal screen, but
Can I ask, would you be open, and I think the board would need to discuss too, you've got the 2A window and the 201 window. You know, if the 2A were solid instead of a window, do you need a screening there?
Yeah, so it's actually for the landing. It's not the windows, because the rule is the windows just need to be at 3/6 above finished floor. It's the landing that needs the
Trying to
screening.
think how you get a couch up there.
So if I may interject, I think there might be a provision, and I want to double check. It's just an upper stair landing that needs to
Yeah.
be screened. It might be able to be waived as well, so I don't know.
Okay. I think we're allowed to waive it, so, yeah.
So
We'll talk with the
I can
board.
get back to you on that if you would
Okay.
like, but I think moving forward, if it's awkward in design, we could see what we can do.
Yeah, they're planning on moving the couch through the balcony. That's how they'd have to do it, because you can't get it up this stair.
How, oh, like lift, oh, interesting, okay.
But
Okay.
we'd appreciate if you don't want us to do that.
Okay,
Definitely don't want to do that.
interesting, okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. We'll start with comments. Anyone want to start? No?
I'm happy to.
Okay.
Just have a couple. I'm not liking some of the ADU guidelines from staff, no offense. But I think that the screen is just not creating a good design situation, and I'd prefer that to go away. And then on the only other comment I have is at the entryway, by creating that now new entry for the main residence that ties in to the balcony, I see exactly why you did it, but I think it might be creating an entryway for the main house that isn't as comfortable to approach as maybe it could be. Maybe it's just introducing another element that's lowered, it steps down, I don't know, but it just seems now that the porch over the entryway is, I liked the old one where the roof came down closer to the door and it was much more inviting instead of, so it just it's just a comment. It's not a deal breaker for me. If you like that and they like it, then I'm fine with it. It's just, it seems like it's creating a situation that the element over the front door is higher now and not as inviting as a main entry to the house. But I understand the challenge. See how that one comes lower, that plaster element is kind of more human scale, and then your new one's going to be above where the roof meets the other roof, the split pitch. You're going to have, it's going to be higher now, but maybe you like that, so I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. I actually like that recommendation, but I agree with your other comments. Overall, I think it's a great project. I know we had some public comments about parking, which is kind of out of our purview, and that's with transportation. I also think it's a really modest second story, and there are quite a few in the neighborhood, and I know more proposed. And yeah, like I said, I think it's a great project. It sounds like you really studied the stair area, so that's not always the ideal, but it sounds like the best possible solution. And hopefully we can resolve the landing issue.
Can I have like a clarification on where the entry now, like the proposed one? So the column that we have, the connection of the flat roof above the entry and the hip roof on the side. Can you tell us what is happening? Like, can you go, yeah, like on that, what is the elevation? Best elevation? Yeah, like the entry, the proposed. So I understand that deck and the railing, and there's like a flat roof above that. What's that exactly there? What are you thinking about? Like, how's the transition?
Yeah, I mean, that would terminate just like, sorry, like on the end of a rafter, it would terminate, and then just head back up and be the same roof that it is. We have the same condition on the other side of the garage right there. I will say, if I could just add, the owner is 6'8" and he ducks under the entry. So lifting it up, and maybe we could do a cool light fixture there or something like that, or get a 7-foot door or something like that. But I hear what you're saying with the forehead there.
Yeah, okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that is maybe worth studying and understanding, and/or providing, perspective of what happens there in the corner. I don't think it's a requirement, but that deck into entry is the only part that feels a little unresolved. Yeah. But I think the ADU floor plan looks great. I think the placement on the house works. And I don't think that you need the screening. And I think any way that you can get more usable space for the stair could be helpful for the occupant. Okay, how does the board feel about going to consent? Okay. Okay. I move to continue this project indefinitely to the consent calendar, and staff, this needed to go to the staff hearing officer as well?
This would be continued indefinitely to staff hearing officer with the
Okay.
board's comments today.
Okay.
Thank you.
So to the staff hearing officer and then to consent with the following comments. The board is generally in support of the ADU placement. So is inset on the existing roof. And the board recommends studying the entry sequence details around the deck and overhang, not quite an awning. The board does not want the screening at the spiral stair as it creates extra bulk and issues with moving around the staircase, and feels that there's enough adequate distance between the neighboring property and the entrance.
I'll second the motion.
Chair Lewis?
Yes.
Board Member Graffiti?
Yes.
Board Member Moslehy?
Yes.
Board Member Sherry?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. We'll
Thank
move
you.
to our third item, which is a one-time pre-application consultation for 3215 Campanile Drive. Proposal for 1,098 square foot detached ADU with 1,060 square feet of accessory space below. The proposed ADU is under design review purview because it does not meet ADU administrative design criteria and is not proposed over a garage. A 4,083 square foot two-story single-unit residence and a 475 square foot attached garage will remain. The project includes a patio and pergola. Project requests zoning modifications from the staff hearing officer for the accessory floor area under the ADU to encroach into the front yard and for the lot to exceed accessory building floor area allowances. The proposed total of 6,698 square feet of development on a 55,125 square foot lot is 131% of the maximum guideline Florida lot area ratio. Pre-application consultation review is requested. Neighborhood preservation findings in Hillside Design District and slope lot findings will be required when it's submitted as a separate planning application. So welcome. Do we have staff comments for this?
Hi, Chair Lewis, board members, Holly Garson with Planning and Zoning. I do want to just mention this isn't necessarily for the record, but I do have to leave at 6:45 and I have the next two items, so not to rush you all, just if I exit, that's why. So this project is under a pre-application. We don't see these all the time, so I'd like to take a moment to explain that and also touch on the requested zoning modifications. So they're here for early feedback to gauge whether or not the project would be aesthetically supportable from you all, from the SFDB's viewpoint, before they continue formally pursuing the planning application for those zoning modifications. So please provide comments on the aesthetic appropriateness of the project and the requested zoning modifications regarding the size, bulk, and scale, neighborhood compatibility. And the applicant architect will take these comments. They're helpful. They'll study them, and they are non-binding to the project, however, so I would like to note that. So as currently designed, the project's looking at 3 confirmed zoning modifications. A 4th is still yet to be determined. The first modification is to exceed the maximum allowable floor area in a single detached accessory building. That standard is 1,250 square feet. So this project proposes the ADU at 1,098 square feet, and then the accessory space below at 1,060 square feet. That's a total of 2,158 square feet. So they're 908 square feet over the allowable. The ADU does count toward this. The second zoning modification is to exceed the maximum allowable accessory floor area for the entire site. The standard is 1,950 square feet. The project proposes 2,158 square feet. So they're about 208 square feet over the allowable. Again, that's for the site, the ADU counts. The third zoning modification is for the accessory building, the square footage located below the ADU to be in the front yard. The applicant can speak to this in their presentation. And the fourth zoning modification that's yet to be confirmed, it may be triggered, is if the accessory floor area is over 500 square feet of livable space. So more information is needed on the floor plan to confirm that, and the architect's aware of that. So I am here for questions if needed. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Chris Cottrell, architect. I'm with Sue Bostrom, owner. Kirk Bostrom's in the audience. Okay, let's see. Can we jump to plans? Thank you. Okay, so this project is on the end of Campanile Drive. There's a cul-de-sac at the end. I just wanted to show you the survey to start. The house is kind of it's on diagonal. And kind of the crux of this is the difference between a front yard setback and a front yard, which is interesting. So here's our site plan. I just rotated it so the main residence is north-south. Here's where we're proposing the ADUs on that. Sorry, this is not letting me zoom now. Let's see.
because you're on full,
I'm
then
on
if you
full
exit
screen.
out of that, then you can zoom.
Yeah, if you press the escape button on, oh, there you go. You got
Now
it.
you can zoom.
There you go. Okay.
There it is. Escape. Okay, so the ADU is south of the pool, southwest of the pool. It is conforming to the front yard setback. So it is 36'8" away from the front property line. But front yards are determined by this, I won't say archaic, but maybe it is archaic system where it depends on how the existing residence is configured. So I looked back through my emails and I had 22 emails with staff on figuring out this front yard back and forth, just this one question. Just to give you an idea of like how sort of interesting it is, particularly on a concave lot. So if it's convex, it works in your favor. If you are sitting on a street that's concave, it does not work in your favor. So we basically had to take where the existing house is perpendicular to the street there, and that sets our front yard, so 5711. So that sweeps all the way around. So even though for all intents and purposes, their pool is in the rear yard, it's in the backyard, this ADU is encroaching onto that front yard. Not the front yard setback, just the front yard. So that was new to me, and I don't know if you guys have come across that, but it's interesting and something to note. And I think staff is actually going to rewrite one of their exhibits on that front yard because it's incorrect in the code. So learn something new every day. All right, here are some overviews. It's a nice house in Hope Ranch. This is kind of a nice shot to lay it all out. So nice house with a pool. They've got a tennis court and nice big backyard that's got a great screening around it. Let's see. I think this is another overview. So right where this box hedge is basically where we're proposing this. So the idea is that it's an ADU at pool level. So you can walk right in, single-story ADU. And I'll show you the plan in a second. It services the pool. And underneath it, we've got some accessory use, some storage, including the pool equipment. So we'd be taking this pool equipment that's exterior right now and putting it inside the ADU. Here's some more shots. You can see the hedge beyond. This is fully screened from the street. Okay, and then this is on the street. So you can see both sides of the street have nice vegetation. This is basically looking into right where we want to do this. Here's shots of the existing house, less important for this. Okay, and here's a section. There's the existing house we were just looking at, and here's the ADU. Half of it is underground, and then it daylights in the basement. And there's the pool. So you can just get an idea of mass of this thing. It's not huge. Here's the lower floor. So we've got an equipment room, and then a storage room, and then just a flex room. Okay. I'll give you a nice overview of this. Okay, so from the pool, we've got a great room, doors pocket open. You got nice function that works both for someone staying in the ADU and folks using it at the house. We've got, let's see, an exterior stair right here that takes you down to that accessory. So there's no interior stair, it's just an exterior stair. Little covered patio to this side. A couple of views of this thing. And this is from the inside. Okay, another kind of section just to give you an idea. Oh, I'm so sorry. Just to give you an idea from pool grade how this thing sits. Right now we're looking at maybe stoning the outside where it's coming out of the ground. So that's a nice datum. Here's an elevation. This is from the backyard. The south elevation, stairs down. We don't have landscape on this yet. It's early and we want to get some feedback. You can see the grade kind of just follows down to our daylighting. So it's settled into the site fairly nicely. So I guess the main feedback that we need from the board is that that you are okay with the siting of where this accessory area is, because the ADU can be where it is. It's the storage area underneath that we're actually having to go get a mod I mean, we have multiple mods, but that's the mod in question for this meeting, I would say. Yeah.
Just to clarify, thank you. I would be requesting feedback on the aesthetic appropriateness of all the modifications, but yeah, of course, the siting of the accessory space is key here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well,
Sue, do you want to, yeah, you just got to click that thing. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thank you for considering our project. I just wanted to add that although you mentioned we're in Hope Ranch, we're actually in an HOA called Campanile Hills. And they have a very rigorous process, which we appreciate. So we had an architectural review of this project, and we got the approval for it. When some of these modifications came up, we went back to the architectural review committee and explained the situation to them, and they've submitted a letter. They've come out and they visited the property. Number one, they like the location of the ADU and the basement where it is, because it's at the lowest slope of the property. So therefore, it means our neighbors will not see this ADU. But even somebody walking on the street, it's better for everyone to have it as low as possible on the property. So they really like the location. In terms of actually putting storage there, they like the idea of us, putting our pool equipment, the AC, everything underground to help minimize noise pollution. They also like the idea that we wouldn't add a storage shed somewhere else, like something smaller that we could add. They're like, no, we like it that it's all contained within this unit. So I know that they've submitted this letter sort of supporting where it's going to be, the idea of us having the basement there and why that would be beneficial. Finally, with regards to why do we need the storage, well, we have 3 adult kids none of whom have been able to buy a home yet, and so we have all their stuff. And so, unfortunately, the garage at the property, it's a 2-car garage, but it's really tight, and so we really don't have any additional storage. So we would probably have to put some type of a storage shed or something somewhere else on the property. And we sort of like the idea here of having it all sort of hidden a little bit.
all right, thank you. Okay, we'll move to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this project. However, if anyone wishes to make a comment, they may fill one out and bring it to me. I see no one in the audience moving to do so, so we will turn our attention to virtual comment. And at this time, I do not see any hands raised for virtual comment. And we did receive written correspondence for this project from Steve Raber, Sue Bostrom, and Diana Cleary. At that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
All right, thank you. We will start with questions. Any questions?
Chris, on the east elevation, why did you choose to do 2 different slopes of roof?
No. Yeah, of course you would see that.
It's the first thing I noticed.
Yeah, it's here, let me get you to the roof
I
plan.
was thinking it might be height, but it's not.
No.
You don't have a height limit issue, so I can't figure out why you did it.
It's because the main roof, we didn't want to have a little extra peak. I will resolve that, I promise. Don't worry. How's that?
It's just a question. And another question is, can I see photos of the main house
Yeah.
too? Just a little bit more, just like the front the front elevation. So, so what would you call this style? Question for anyone.
That's an amazing question,
Yeah, that is a good
because
question.
we're still trying to figure it out. We bought the home in April, and we've heard French Mediterranean.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's
But
fair.
I don't, I think it's a mix of a couple different styles.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
fair.
was wondering.
But back to your point, I mean, one of the things we've said to Chris is, I know it's really hard to do, but we'd love it if it looked like the ADU was, built when the original house was built, so it sort of blends in.
That's why I asked that question. Okay, no more questions.
Okay.
I have just a quick question. Can you go back to that site section that you had? Like it's on sheet A10.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you know approximately from the main floor, what's the grade difference to the street?
To the street?
to the street, to the left side of the,
I can tell you from the survey.
approximately.
We have, 492. Street's about 490.
The street moves.
I don't know how I
Street
did that.
is on a slope, so.
490? Is that, it's 489 at the gate right there.
You're thinking that it seats on that 492, like the
Where's your
main floor?
ADU?
Oh, the
finished
ADU's
floor?
higher, yeah, let's see, okay.
The reason I'm asking that, I want to see how much, like, from the road, we will see, like, will we see the only the peak of the roof, or we will see a little bit of the facade?
Yeah, I think it depends where you are on the road. If you're up close to the hedge, you're not going to see anything. If you're maybe across the street on the curb, you're going to see some of the peak of the roof.
And as I heard, the owner wants it to be the same style. That was my concern, that, like, if it matched the main house, that feels like it was part of the house.
Yes.
That would be no issue, but if it's like different style, that will be concerning, I think, to our board. Thank you.
Any questions? Can you show the elevation again of the pergola?
Yeah, can I answer
Oh, yeah.
Ms. Sherry's question real quick? Because I saw this roof plan. This is why we have two different pitches. This roof, I wanted to die into this gable. I didn't want this roof to pop up higher, that's why. But I'll work on that, I promise. I'm sorry.
The pergola.
Pergola.
I'm curious, the design language for the pergola?
Yeah, I mean, let's see if I can see a photo for you. Right now, it's fairly simple. It's just a linear covered, it'd probably be, wood infill. Maybe we'd switch this to stucco. That's more the language of the house. But right now, this is just to give an idea that we're
Okay.
covering that zone.
And then same with these windows. Are they just conceptual right now, or is the idea that they would start to match some of the language of the main house?
Totally conceptual. I think we'd want to match at least colors and some of the openings. But we would like them to open like that.
Right,
to go
right,
along.
operability.
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Any comments from the board?
Couple.
Okay.
Go ahead, start.
I mean, I think that the sighting is good, and I agree with it, and I think it works well with it kind of creating a courtyard for the pool, and the suggestions that I would make are, if you go to your rendering, it's a really good example of what I'm going to talk about. Your rendering kind of, and I know it's just conceptual, but the rendering to me looks like a contemporary ranch, and then you've got the main residence that, although it has a little bit of unidentified style, there's some charm to it, a lot of charm to it, and there's an opportunity in there for you to expound on that, and especially with not going with the low-profile 4 and 12 slope roof, and picking up some of the other charm-giving elements of the main house, including perhaps the arched headers, and there's some dormers and smaller elements that are creating an interesting massing on the house, and then when you might be able to pick it up with some undulations of the ADU popping out, so you can do something like that, a dorm, I don't know, something like that but I mean, I think the siding is good, and you're on the right track. It just, I think that you could do a little bit more work on that.
Yeah, I agree with those comments. I would be in support of the zoning modifications requested. I wasn't sure if, because it's so early on with the rendering, if that was why it didn't necessarily match as much, and if that was the intention, but definitely would want to see it match as much as possible. And if you do stone, and there are existing stone elements, seeing how that can relate. But I think it's a great project. I like where it's sited, and I would feel comfortable providing positive comments.
I agree with all the comments that were made, and as was mentioned, a lot of like charming details to the main house. For example, one of the things that on the ADU, I know that it's conceptual, like the handrail of the stairs, the horizontal lines, that's like pretty contemporary, and like there's a specific handrail on the main house that is like designed specially for the house, and the arched headers, I really agree with that. That's a little charm to the main house, and I think maybe like even like if it's like major openings to the patio that you have, that will help a lot, especially facing the public road. If it's visible, that will really help to identify them as consistent. In general, I'm supportive of all the modification that were asked, and appreciate that early on you are here. Thank you.
Okay, great. I agree with all the comments, and I think that I'll be able in the motion to provide some of the detailed support for the modifications. I know that I appreciate the feedback from the HOA, and, I think that you had two in support, and one just, not wanting any variance, but I will speak in support of, like you said, this prevents future storage going elsewhere and provides a neat home for that. And the siding is low enough down on the slope that it fits really well with the basement there, and I really like it being in stone, and kind of it helps minimize the size of that anyway, and feels like it could have been there the whole time. So, and you just have a funky property with your front yard. But I do appreciate, yeah. I know. Exactly. I appreciate the effort, though, of placing it still within the setback, and so there's no real issue there. So I'll move to continue this project to the staff hearing officer, correct?
Yeah, Chair Lewis, the project's just here for conceptual comments.
Okay,
Thank you.
so the board has the following comments. That the ADU is sited well on the property, and as it connects and completes the pool and landscape setting. Actually, would you mind going to the site plan? That might help me. Oh, yeah, that one, the orange one. Thanks. The board is in support of the modification for the ADU placement in the front yard.
Chair Lewis, sorry to interrupt. It's not for the ADU in the front yard. It's
Oh,
for
the accessory, thank you. In support of the structure, accessory structure in the front yard, given the unique shape of the property and the significant landscape screening, and it's still within or still outside of the setback. The board is in support of the modifications for the square footage modifications to the area for both the ADU and the accessory structure. Given the condensed design of the structure and its location on the site being partially underground, the board recommends studying the slopes of the roof for a consistent design that complements the existing residence. The board recommends incorporating stylistic details of the existing French Mediterranean residence, such as arched headers, colors, roof pitch, railings, etc. The board likes the stone at the basement as it helps ground and reduce the overall appearance or overall height of the structure.
I will second that motion. Did we vote on that?
If needed, we will make an approval of the comments. Take a vote. Okay.
We do.
That the board all
Okay.
agrees on the comments made.
All right. Chair Lewis?
Yes.
Board Member Garfitti?
Yes.
Board Member Moslahi?
Yes.
Board Member Sherry?
Yes.
Passes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, we will move to our last item when I find my agenda. Lots of public comments. Okay, there we go. Right on time, look at us. Okay, this is a new item here for concept review, 1790 Eucalyptus Hill. The site is currently developed with a 2,178 square foot, one-story, single-unit residence, including a 297 square foot non-habitable understory and a 391 square foot detached carport. The project proposes to abate enforcement case 2018-00145 by permitting the conversion of the existing carport to a garage and the existing non-habitable first floor understory to habitable floor area, permitting 567 square feet of an as-built deck and an as-built spa. An as-built unpermitted shed, RV, carport, and associated deck will be removed. A new guest parking space is proposed in the secondary driveway. A minor zoning exception is requested from the SFDB to allow an as-built overheight wall and fence. Review and approval by the staff hearing officer for 2 zoning modifications is required to allow the as-built deck and spa to encroach into the interior and front setbacks. The proposed total of 2,866 square feet of development on a 28,439 square foot lot is 60% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. Okay, that was a lot. So we'll start with staff comments.
Thank you. Before we hop into that, through the chair to Board Member Sherry, I wanted her to read the state because she's going to be presenting. Give me 1 sec to find it.
I was like, where did she go? I didn't see her go.
I'm not really presenting, but since I'm at the
Yes,
table,
okay.
I wanted to be here, so.
Okay, give me 1 moment. Yeah.
The State Fair Political Practices Act states that an official may appear before a design or architectural review committee of which he or she is a member to present, explain architectural or engineering drawings which the official has prepared for the client. I, Dawn Sherry, am a sole practitioner, and I'm using this exception understanding certain limits regarding advocating on behalf of my client.
Great. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to staff comment.
Thank you. Chair Lewis, board members, again, Holly Garson, Planning and Zoning. So this project has been deemed complete. We're looking to move on to the staff hearing officer if we can receive positive comments today. Please include comments on the requested MZE and whether it would be acceptable for when the project returns for project design approval. Just helpful to know that supportability or not at this point. And please also provide comments on the aesthetic appropriateness of those requested zoning modifications for the record. And I am here for questions if needed. Thank you.
All right, my name is Paul Sika from Sharon Associates Architects, and this is the property owner, Christina Humphrey. Our client purchased this property back 2022, and she inherited some violations so that she's trying to mitigate now, including the deck and spa to the south of the property. Let me go ahead and. So because of the steep terrain and the physical constraints of the lot, it pretty much prohibits us from putting a spa out in the main level of the house, anywhere else on the property. So this is the main level right here. I'll probably have photos later to show you guys what it looks like, but This is an as-built spa and the deck right here. We can understand why the previous owners put the spa where it is. It's because it's the only place they can build a deck on the main level of the house where you would want access to a spa, which would be like right here. Christina's neighbor to the south is the only neighbor directly affected by the location of the deck and spa. And he wrote a letter, so hopefully you guys have all read it, that he's in support of the project. He mentioned in his letter that he cannot see the deck and spa unless he's on the rooftop of his house. You can't see the deck and spa because it's being blocked by a 6-foot high fence. I'll show you that on the photos shortly. It's the only place, again, to do a deck that would allow the owners to have any kind of outdoor living area beyond the main level footprint of the house. And I can show you a couple elevations or floor plans here. This is the lower understory that we're going to convert to habitable space, to hobby room. Here's a quick section of it right here. Here's the main level floor plan. So just the living room goes out to a dining room, and this is the main out to the deck right here. And there's an existing master bedroom here that goes directly out to the deck and spa. This is a detached as-built garage. It was permitted as a carport, but it was converted to a garage. Roof plan, existing roof plan for the main residence. And this is the elevation from the street. This is the fence I was talking about that was blocking the spa and deck. This is the main level of the house. This is the north side. This is the understory that we're going to convert to habitable space right here. We're not changing anything on the main residence. This is the east elevation that shows the deck and the extreme terrain and that happens with the deck area right here. It's pretty steep. It's really extreme. And here's the fence again with that spa right there in the background. The south elevation shows the fence height in the front. I think you can barely see the spa on that side, but that's where it is, and these are the decks. This is the elevation of the detached garage. The only thing that got changed here is the added T11s on the wall. It used to be a carport. It was permitted as a carport. Yeah, so there's some photos right here. See if I can zoom in. So this is an aerial view of the house. Here's the main house right here with the detached garage. And the deck in question is kind of like around this area here. It's around this backside area behind a fence. Here's a view from the driveway. Existing, used to be a garage, but they converted to a master bedroom. Got permit for it. This is the view of the deck in the back that was as-built. Here's a view of the spa there. This is the master bedroom. And again, it's the only space in the outside the main level footprint of the house that you can access this. Here's another view of it from the other side. There's the spa deck. And there's an existing deck in the back that got permitted, so we just extended it out. I think the deck just used to like stop right here, existing. View of the same deck. And view from the rear. So here's the main level right here of the house. And here's the deck right here off the dining room. This is the as-built RV carport that we're gonna demolish with, I think there's also a deck right here. This is gonna be all gone. The shed back here is also gonna be gone. We're gonna demo that as well as part of our abatement. And here's a photo of that RV carport again that we're gonna remove. Looking toward west elevation of the as-built garage. Here's the as-built garage right now. That's T11 siding. So this is the one that we're trying to get a MZE, which is the overheight of the wall. It's within 10 feet of the property line. The property line, I believe, is like right here. And this fence is about 6 feet in height. Here's another view of the secondary driveway. Again, there's some picket fence on this side. It's over height. I believe the maximum is 42 inches within the 10 feet of a front lot line, and this one's about 5 to 6 feet in height. Another view from the street again. It's really tight driving through there. There's really no parkway, and this is where the property line is right here. And another view of the street across the neighbors. It's a neighbor's property across the street. The owner recently replaced the fence. It's still wood. It's in the same exact location, but this is where it is. And I think part of the scope is we're going to remove this parking right here because we don't meet the standard parking dimensions, and it encroaches into the property line in the front here. So we're going to remove that and replace it with some landscaping, which I'll show in the site plan. Again, pavers right here. This is a photo of the steepness of the deck that I was talking about. It's really extreme, and this is the existing condition right now. It's the existing deck. The spa is back that way. Another view of the spa again and the decks, and that's the view that we're trying to keep. And that concludes my presentation.
Thanks. We'll go to public comment.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I'll start with in-person public comment. At this time, I do not have any slips for this particular project. If anyone wishes to make a comment, they may fill one out. I see no one in the audience to do so, so we will move on to virtual public comment. At this time, I do not have any hands raised for virtual public comment. And for this item, we did receive a written correspondence from Doran Lentz. And at that, I will turn it back over to you, Chair Lewis.
Okay. We're going to start with questions. So the first one being, no new work is proposed. It's all an understanding of as-built conditions, with the exception of one of the fences being replacing what was existing there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
We're doing some minor landscaping right here since we're removing the parking, but that's
Okay.
about it.
Can you zoom in there
Yeah.
on the site plan? It's a touch screen if that's
Oh, it is?
helpful.
Okay.
Okay. And that's because it's required, not necessarily that you want to, but you
Well,
already
yeah.
have the driveway that goes around anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
the parking there is also as-built. We don't have a permit for that
Got
parking,
it.
so
Okay.
we're-
And then the new fence that replaces the one that was there, can you just do a path? I'm trying to.
it's
find
just
it. There we go.
like
It's
along
just
right here.
there. Okay. Will you show us the other fence that we looked at on the other side of the driveway on the site plan?
Like along this side right here.
Yes, where exactly? What? So that was a
Right
stucco
here.
wall.
Stucco wall, and there's like chain link fence like right along here in the property line.
And then zoom out a little bit so that chain link continues, but then,
And it stops right here where the stucco wall.
sorry, we go page north. And then the chain link goes, okay, so when we saw in your photos, there was a wood fence, but it looked like it was kind of faded, deteriorated, a little bit tall.
Yeah, yes, that was the old fence that was right here in front of the spa.
Got it, okay.
And she just replaced it because
Okay.
it was deteriorating.
So, okay,
but
and
we did-
then, can you show photos then of the chain link one?
Yes, let me
Again,
just transfer.
thanks.
Right here.
Oh, that's what I was, oh, got it. So what's in the chain link?
There's slats, for more privacy. There's insert slats that you can insert on the chain link fence that makes it more private.
Okay,
I don't know if you've seen those around. It's a chain link fence. There's just little slats. They're like
Yeah.
1.5 or 2 inches thick.
is there any consideration for this fence being replaced? some people.
I was hoping to get through this first. but
Yeah.
I agree, it's totally ugly, and we'd love to do something with it, we just want to make sure we can get approval.
Got it, okay. Okay, we go back to the site plan, unless, sorry, were there other questions that need to reference the photos? Okay.
The fence that is beside the spa, like on the page 3 of this like images, like if you go up, like,
This one right here.
no, the other one. Now you're on page 9, like go
Oh, you
back.
want on page 3?
Page 3
Of your
no,
photos.
Of your
Oh,
photos.
my photos, okay.
So I just want to be
So if you go up 2 pages.
2 pages. That one, like, can you zoom in?
Yeah, this was the old fence.
Oh, I see.
It got,
So-
it's the same, it got with the horizontal one that I just showed
So
you.
now it's that wood horizontal.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
just want to get
Yeah.
clarification. Okay.
Okay.
Pardon my interruption, but if anyone at the table is speaking, please turn on the microphone. It's just for the public record. Thanks.
Any other, okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to go through the, for some of the modifications. I know with the setbacks, okay, so the deck and spa to encroach in the interior and front setbacks. Do you know the current distance that they're encroaching versus the typical minimum required?
Yeah, I'll show
Or
you the
like
site plan quick.
the variance between them?
So right here is our front, 30-foot front yard setback right there.
Okay.
We can't see what you're
Oh, sorry.
pointing to.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so
I see what you're saying.
this is the front yard setback,
Got it, okay.
and this is the interior 10-foot side yard, interior setback right here. So the spa and deck on this area here and here are encroaching into the front yard setback. Not so much on the, I guess this right here is just the deck. But that's the modification that we're requesting, is the location of the as-built spa and the deck.
Okay, that's helpful, thank you. And I see in the description, I'm sorry, I think I missed this, it says a new guest parking space is proposed in the secondary driveway. Can you
Yes,
go
so
back
let me
over
go
there
back to
and
this
show
one.
that?
So this is an as-built driveway right here.
Okay,
And there's that RV parking.
right,
And we talked to transportation, and then they said that we can actually keep that parking space as a guest.
okay, but you're demolishing the
Just the
carport
You're just
carport, yeah,
counting
just
it as
and
parking.
counting it,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, just
But
the
you're
car-
not
just the
making
cover.
changes besides demolishing the existing carport?
That's correct. Yeah, we're just demolishing the covered area of the
Okay.
carport, but we're keeping the paving for the parking.
Okay. And then for the front wall, I know you kind of pointed in a picture where the property line is,
Yeah.
but generally, where is that versus the encroachment?
Yeah, so like, see, like right here is the 6-foot-high stucco wall right here.
Yeah.
It's kind of, the property line's right there, right in the middle of it. So if I go back to the photos, so we can,
Down one.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So the property line is like, sticks like right here.
Okay, and then is it typically the guideline 10 feet back for that height, or what is the difference of what it should be? Or so, okay, that's helpful.
Yeah.
I can clarify if needed. So right now, because they're over the 42 inches, that triggers a minor zoning exception. If they were beyond the 10 feet, but still, you know, in the setback area, they could go higher, up to 8 feet.
Okay.
The MZE, if granted, will allow them 7.5 feet within the 10 feet of the property line.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. One last question. What is like the material in the guardrail by the spa and the deck? Is that just a netting of sorts?
No, it's, I think this were just installed recently, right? Or is it, does that netting?
So it was the previous owner, I believe they had a toddler or something.
Okay, got it. Okay. Thank you. I think that's all of mine.
Okay, will you go back to the site plan?
Sure. Almost there.
Actually, I want to look on that colored one. I think that's helpful. And
Yeah.
zoom out a little bit.
Yeah, this one, I just did it for the swamp calculation
Oh, got it.
You know, how much hardscape we're removing, and the green one over here by the spa is, there's actually a slab underneath the deck. So we call that impervious.
Got it, okay.
Just calculations for swamp.
Okay. So we can look at the other one then,
Yeah.
since there's setbacks and stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Will you zoom out just a little bit so we get the second driveway? There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move to comments.
Can I make one more statement about that question about the deck railing? I think that we would have maybe pursued replacing that if it weren't for a couple of things. One, you can't see it from anywhere, from any public view, and two, just trying to get through these violations. We inherited this project from a previous applicant that abandoned it for some reason or another, and we were hired to just kind of get through this. Christina bought the property kind of coming out of COVID, and we're just trying to get beyond the violation abatement, and the only reason we didn't propose to change that design is only because we can't really see it from anywhere. The closest neighbor is maybe can see it with the binoculars or a telescope from across the canyon, so.
I am appreciative of removing the RV. Like, not that you can see it, but it needs some love. And I appreciate having a letter from the neighbor. I also think, given the restraints, the way that the spa is tucked in, I'm not very concerned about it and the distance from the neighbor. I do, however, think that the other fence on Page North, it is also north. Not that I'm okay with the existing plaster because I think it's been there a while and it's a small encroachment, though I would generally want that to comply. It's more the chain link fence that I recommend matching the other wood fence. And with that one, I think there's room for that to either set back a little bit or be a little bit lower. It doesn't need to be as tall unless there's a reason then it's existing and tall.
Yes, I think if you look at the photos again, I think it's mainly for privacy.
That
just-
part of the property, what's there behind the fence?
Let's see.
It's just a driveway that slopes down.
Yeah, it's just driveway slopes down, and then it goes to, pretty much the driveway that slopes down, and there's a garage on the right side.
Right. So I think it could be lower.
Oh,
but
I
anyway,
just
I'm
wanted to ask a
curious.
question.
Yeah.
Is that part of the fence encroaching onto the the front yard setback or the property line? Or
Yes,
it
yes.
is? Okay, that
It's
part
right-
is as well. Okay. Okay.
They
Got it.
both
I
are, yeah.
thought it was just the white portion of the wall. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Or the white circle wall.
Well, I think part of that is over height and not yeah.
So just to clarify, on page 7 that you are, so the bottom picture is on the left side of the above picture, like it goes.
That's
Yeah?
right, that's correct, yeah,
Continuation.
yeah, yes, yes, yeah.
So is there any, I don't know, maybe it's a next step that you guys have thought about? I'm like okay with the height of it, if there was possibility to cover it with landscape. I don't know if it's possible I don't know if it's a floor drain on the above picture, if you go, what is that in front of the plaster wall? Yeah,
Oh,
so
this-
I don't know if there's possibilities to have like an in-ground planter that starts to grow on the wall.
Yeah,
Just
there
like,
is.
yeah, but that will
Do you
be
mean over the chain link?
a little bit, there's possibility here in front of the chain link as well, and there is possibility if they remove part of the pavers and add a in-ground planter that starts to grow on this wall. I mean, that will be like, I think like.
Is that a
so-
question for me? 'Cause
Yeah, like,
the
is
answer
it-
is yes, and
Yeah.
and we could leave the chain link and cover it with creeping fig, and we could continue the creeping fig with the wall. instead of doing the continuation of the wood.
I mean, to
Make it
me,
good
I
now.
would be open to either one of those.
yeah, if the height will be acceptable
If it was
aesthetically for me, if it covers with landscape.
Okay, my question would just be then the treatment on the gate for the
Yeah,
second driveway.
Yeah.
Gate wants to.
And the gate's
ultimately
moving
change
back.
the other.
Oh, yeah, on the site plan, it's going back, but I don't know what that
But
is.
the
Okay.
same gate, the chain link gate? Oh,
At least not in my mind.
Yeah, it has to go back 20 feet from
okay. Yeah, I think it doesn't want to be chain link.
Maybe if just the gate were the wood and everything else remained the chain link, and then had the creeping fig on the chain link remaining fence and the wood, the stucco wall would be a good solution.
Why don't, well, I don't want to, we're kind of jumping around. I want to
know,
make
I
sure
know,
you can
we
finish
are,
your comments, but
yeah.
this might be one of the bigger
Yeah.
items. I would say, or giving it options.
Yeah, I think
So
I'm
that
open
could be
to
one,
a
or
range of options. Yeah.
Shortening it or changing the material, yeah.
Yeah, and part of it, the reason, them being so close to the street, it feels like this hard boundary, and so by making it landscape and taller, it feels a little bit more inviting of a neighborhood treatment. Because it's not running the whole length of the property is why I'm okay with part of it being taller if it's treated in a landscape. Otherwise, I think if it becomes another solid thing, it wants to be lower and or more setback. I think the chain link seeing the chain link visible is not something we want to see. Board's thoughts on any of the other modifications and the spa and the existing fence on the page south?
I think because it's not visible from anywhere, I think the encroachment is okay. I would like to see like some updates of like where the deck is having like that structural column, the landscape to be upgraded, but it's not visible from anywhere, so I don't have any issue with
I
like
agree, yeah.
encroachment. Because like it's not visible from even the south neighbor cannot see it. What was the other item,
Yeah, it was
the third item?
the fence, the deck, and the spa that are remaining. The rest of the as-built unpermitted things are being removed, which include the shed, the RV, and the RV deck.
Okay, I'm happy to jump in. Yeah, I mean, overall, it's always great to fix a lot of the unpermitted work. So thank you for pursuing that. And I would agree with what's been said. I feel comfortable supporting those modifications. I think my biggest concern is just with the chain link fence, and I'm kind of looking at what's there already. It looks like there's an oak and a Brazilian pepper and then some oleander. I don't think my number one recommendation would be planter and vegetation, especially looking at the trees and creeping fig and how it would grow around that. I have a little bit of concern, but I'm open to that option, and I think we should give a couple options. One being reducing the height, and another being material, especially since there's the plaster with like the iron gate, then there's the wood on the other side. Definitely would want to change the material of the gate, although if it's moving back and compliant and it's out of our purview, then I guess it's
It
out of
would
our
still be
purview,
part of the
but-
purview.
Okay,
The
okay.
aesthetic of the gate.
Yeah, just because there's a lot going on there, and I understand, whatever budget restrictions, stuff like that. So I want to be accommodating, but that's probably my biggest one right now, just because it's on that main road. I don't also love that material in the deck in the back, but I understand the points that from public viewing, it's minimally visible, but hopefully over time, maybe there can be adjustments to that.
Okay, how do we feel about this going to consent?
Yeah.
Okay. Great, so I move to continue this project indefinitely to the staff hearing officer and consent calendar with the following comments. The board appreciates the removal of the shed, RV carport, and associated deck. The board can support the modification required for the as-built deck and spa, given the screening, the site limitations with the steep slope, and the neighbor support. Given the setback from this street and the proposed landscaping, the board's in support of the as-built wood fence surrounding the spa. The board does not support the chain link for the as-built fence on the north of the property, and recommends matching either the as-built wood or stucco at lower heights, or covering the chain link in landscaping.
One thing I just want to flag, sorry to interrupt your motion, is just I'm looking at this oak tree here and I'm trying to figure out for a stucco wall especially.
It would have to be set back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the board would like to see another material proposed for the gate at the as-built concrete driveway. You can call it. I think I hit all the MZEs. Are there anything else or no? Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Chair Lewis,
Yes.
Board Member Garfieti,
Yes.
Board Member Moslahim.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Motion
Thank you,
passes.
All right.
With that, our single-family design board meeting for November 4th has ended.